the outward appearance as if people still own things. And that, unfortunately, seems to be the type of model that the United States is moving towards under the Obama administration. It is true that Obama seems to have been influenced in his earlier formative years by a variety of people, both in and outside of the academic world, who persuaded him that capitalism was evil, capitalism was exploitive, capitalism was unjust, and he believes in a socialist manner, in the philosophical or ideological sense, that it is necessary for those people who see more and know more, an elite, if you will, an arrogant elite in my view, to know how people should live, what the income should be distributed as, who should work at what and for what pay. I consider that extremely dangerous in the long run. I hate to tell you this, but I wouldn't want you to run my life, and I can assure you if you spoke to my wife, she doesn't consider me intelligent enough to run my own, let alone run yours.
I have to take a break here. This is Jones and Company. This is our final break here, and we'll come right back. We're back here in the final minutes of our program speaking with Dr. Richard Ebeling today. And Dr. Ebeling, you know, the Bahamas has been gray listed by the OECD countries. There are certain tax information exchange agreements now being drawn up and agreed to by some members of OECD and
right.
the Bahamas. You're against those kind of initiatives.
Absolutely. What they're preventing you is from being a tax haven competitor. People want to leave their money with you, to deposit their money, earn interest. You then earn income as a center for financial intermediation, financial services. And what the Americans and the Europeans don't like is that people want to take their money to pay less taxes, which you want to take advantage of and offer them a home and an opportunity to do. Instead, they want to regulate you out of business. They want to have what they want to eliminate tax competition. They want to make you hand over your records and not offer any tax benefits to anyone for them to take their money out of the United States or the European Union. That's what, because they want to keep Americans and Europeans as tax slaves when you've been a land of liberty and liberation for them. Well, and it's a great tragedy that you're being denied this opportunity of earning your living by giving other people financial freedom.
But the governments of the United States and other OECD countries, they say that these people are evading taxes. They're not paying their fair share of taxes at home, and so these exchange agreements are necessary.
Well, let me suppose that there were to come around in your neighborhood an extortion racket. And they said, Mr. Jones, we think you're doing a great job in your business, but you know, you have to pay us protection money every month. And there could be bad consequences if you don't pay the protection money. And then you decided to try to hide some of the money that they were trying to steal from you through this phony baloney protection racket. And now, where you've been hiding your money, your hard-earned, honest money, this protection racket now tries to shut down that haven where you're hiding your money. Well, that's the same thing. This is a protection racket that these governments run. And they're trying to prevent the honest person from hiding some of their money from the looters. And that's terrible that you're being shut down because it means you have less business, which, as you said, in your island community, you're hoping to foster for jobs and income. And it's a tragedy for those Americans and Europeans who wanted to keep more of that which they had earned from the grasping hand of hungry politicians who want to spend their money for their purposes.
What do you say about these mega institutions like the IMF and the WTO and the OECD that tries to control and run the affairs of countries external through rules and regulations?
Listen, they're the same type of rulers and regulators and controllers that we've been talking about in domestic affairs. They want to now manage the world and tell what you are going to do in the Bahamas, how you're going to run your affairs, what type of taxing laws you can have, what type of investment regulations you can have, whether you need investment regulations. Who are they to tell you how to run your affairs in your corner of the world? And often their policies have been counterproductive and made bad situations worse for some of the countries that they've gone in to try to give advice to. So the world would be a much better place in the long run, all things considered,
without the IMF.
if those organizations just went to where they should go, a graveyard of bureaucratic agencies.
Now, there is another point that I'd like for you to comment on, Dr. Ebeling, and that is the European Union has in place certain agreements for trade.
Economic Partnership Agreements,
Yes,
EPAs.
these EPAs, the Economic Partnership Agreements that these developing countries are signing on to. You're against those as well?
I'm for trade agreements that lower trade barriers, trade restrictions among all countries. I believe in free trade. Now, all of these agreements invariably are done for someone's benefit. You are able to export something, but then you have to do something in importing another country's product, or there are restrictions on what you can export to their country, or certain tax arrangements have to be made. These are basically politically manipulated and controlled trade agreements. Do they sometimes make situations better for trading partners? Certainly it's better to have freer trade than less free trade. But at the end of the day, the best thing is that why do you need these agreements at all? Just say from day forward, any citizen of this country can freely trade, exchange, invest, and deal with any person that he peacefully wants to, regardless of whether that trading partner is a domestic producer or supplier or a foreign producer and supplier. We should be citizens of the world. We should be citizens of the world. You remain a Bahamian, I remain an American in the nationality, cultural, historical sense. Who cares about that? But we should be citizens of the world, freely trading and exchanging for the mutual benefit that we can both gain to improve our lives and that of our families.
But based on what you're saying, you would the gap between the haves and the have-nots will widen.
It'll narrow. It will narrow.
Because those who have would be in a position to get more.
Absolutely.
And those who have not, they would never be able to compete with you.
Absolutely not. The point is that in international trade, everyone can find, in any trade, anybody can find their niche in which they have something to offer to their neighbors to earn a living. And what these trade agreements do is narrow and confine the creativity of individuals in every society to find the best way to earn an income for themselves and their neighbors.
So the ultimate form of trade restriction is the embargo on Cuba.
Yes, there should be no embargo on Cuba. I believe that that's helped to reinforce the communist control of Cuba. I think American investment should have been allowed there. Americans should have been allowed to visit there. Americans should have been allowed to spend money in there. And all of those additional Westerners, including then Americans, would have helped Cubans realize that there would have been a better way to live, greater economic opportunities, and would have perhaps put more pressure on the Cuban government to loosen up than waiting for Castro to come down sick after half a century.
Dr. Richard Ebeling, thank you so very much for being here today.
My pleasure.
I appreciate your being here. You're very kind. Thank you, Godfrey Ines.
Thank you.
You do this in every country you go in?
They're
going to put you out of America. Thank you so very much.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching and listening to Jones & Company today, and good evening, everyone.